Welcome. Welcome. It's time. We're here. It's another session. It was a bit touch and go today, honestly. A game time decision. I wasn't sure if I was gonna pull it together. I had a bit of a bug, but today I finally started feeling almost normal again. So I figured, you know what? Let's do it. Let's do a session. And I'm excited today to get into an old friend of sorts, the Pulse Engine. So yeah, drop a line in the chat. Everyone's welcome. I love to interact and engage with questions or any feedback along the way. Don't be shy. And if you want to just hop in there and say where you're tuning in from, that's always a thrill for me. I know a lot of people are tuned in to all the exciting new gear at Super Booth this week. And yeah, all the more reason for me to kind of dive back into a tool I developed a while ago to remind myself how powerful these things are. Sometimes, you know, we always get obsessed with the new shiny toys and the new fun tools, but it's easy to forget how powerful some of the things that maybe we already have can be. And yeah, that's one vantage from which to approach this. So you might have noticed this kind of endlessly generative motif with the bass. And yeah, I'll walk through recreating this with Pulse Engine. I feel like it's probably a good starting point. But again, just to preface the genesis of this tool, as with so many of my tools, they come from a place of being kind of exhausted of my own ideas and wanting to find ways to access new musical ideas I would not be likely to ever play with my fingers or otherwise come up with. And so this Pulse Engine is a tool that works for creating these motifs. It can also do call and response to sort of generatively augment or ornament or kind of exist in dialogue with other elements, because again, this also came out of some of the installation work I was doing, and I wanted to create these little musical agents, not like AI stuff, but very, you know, you give them some character, you give them a starting point, and then they go do their own thing. It's really fascinating. So hopefully we'll get into some of that aspect of it as well. So yeah, why don't I just start by grabbing a new instance of Pulse Engine here. Filter by, manifest audio, and there we go. Feel free to comment as well on the music and mic balance. I'm always trying to sort of dial that in a little better as I get used to doing these streams. So here we have a default instance of Pulse Engine. And again, the consternating thing with these drum clips, I have to remind myself to turn the scale awareness off, because then what happens is that this gets disabled. Or anyway, let's switch it to a different scale. I like to use minor blues for this sort of thing. I know it can be a sort of a cliche scale at this point, but yeah, I've just got a multi-sine wave bass going here with one FM operator and the other two in parallel, just to give it a little tone. Single voice on here, keep it monophonic for the low end, little spread, and basic sine waves for the most part with a little bit of a nice release. And so what have we here with the Pulse Engine? So basically it generates pulses, and this is the core of how those pulses are generated down here. So by default, we have an interval at which pulses will be generated, the chance of them being generated, and the chance that their rate will vary. So every quarter note, we've got a 50% chance it'll generate a new series of notes at whatever rate it's been randomized to as per the variance. So I'm going to just play it with these default settings, and it's me playing at C3. I'll probably want to bring that down, but okay. So, and I'm just just using it generatively now, right? So I'm not worried about how it interacts with any incoming notes. We'll get to that later. I want a 100% chance of variance. I want the rate, the playback rate, to change every quarter note. I still don't want it to play every quarter note, so I'll leave the pulse at 50%. And right now it's in this full range setting. So we have a bunch of different timing settings we can adjust within the minimum and maximum bass rates. So it'll be between 16th and 64th notes. That seems a little rapid. So I'll set that to a maximum of 30-second notes. And what I want to do is actually bring this down to 8th note dotted can be my minimum. Okay. And then, you know, we're not hearing any change in the pitch. So there are a variety of ways we can have the pitch change. We've got a basic chaos randomization within these minimum and maximum pitch ranges. Okay, so now it's starting to move around a little bit. I think being already bass this low at the C1, I'll just boost this minimum up to 0, so it won't go lower than C1. And then we have also a pitch decay, so we can say each subsequent note triggered within a pulse cluster being what's triggered here, a group of pulses at this interval, pull them up or down. So now we can hear those notes getting pulled up within the C minor blues scale, and that's automatically inherited from live. Now what can make it even more expressive is to apply some LFO to it. So we have a built-in LFO which can be toggled on and off with your customary waveforms here, and we can synchronize it to any bass rate with the multiplier and divisor, so quite flexible. And let's make it like a 7-bar LFO, a 7-bar sine wave with a little jitter, 23% jitter, and let's add a little smoothing. So there's some variance there. So now the pitch is moving along the contour of this LFO, which let me just open the viewer here. And now we can see the pulse output in the sort of golden color there. And we could apply the LFO more strongly. And because there's just one LFO, which can also be assigned to the velocity, we have the ability to offset the phase, so the velocity and pitch LFO application is not directly overlapping. They can be sort of out of sync with one another a little bit. Okay, so again, this is just with a default operator being sent to a touch of reverb, and I have the most basic possible drum clip in there, but I find that it helps really identify the intricate rhythms that are being output from the pulse engine. Yeah, it's already starting to do some really golden stuff. So similar to the pitch, we also have a decay we can apply to the velocity positively or negatively. So if it's applied negatively, then each cluster will decline from that default velocity of 100. And that's reflected in the brightness of the line there. But we can also say, let's start at a maybe slightly lower velocity. And if we apply a positive decay, the notes will increase in velocity or crescendo. And we can also randomize the velocity a little bit just to make it a little more dynamic. And yeah, I think I'll just do something like that. Okay, this is, you know, really speaking to me already. Another crucial decay factor is to the length of the notes within each cluster. So now we can make them quite a bit shorter or longer as the cluster continues. Yes, Virtual Riot. Agreed. Yeah, it's you know, it's deceptively powerful. So we've got a few other modes we can get into here. We can also randomize the multiplier and divisor of these rates, also at the chance interval. So with variance at 100%, every pulse, it's going to choose a new rate here. But only 50% of those pulses are going to play. Got a little tweaky there. Yeah, because I think it tried to triple here. Oh, awesome. Yeah, I grabbed Serum too, but I haven't had a chance to dive into it as deep as I want because I have a bunch of work right now, but that's exciting. I will definitely check out the note on random discrete modulation. Sounds very fun. And that actually reminds me, you know, one thing we could do here. Let's just take one of our basic LFOs here, and I might not have re-added it to our appointment, but you know what? I will just grab the default LFO for expediency's sake, and let's go ahead and grab a random set to let's set to every 2 bars, and let's map it so that it will modulate the pitch decay to go up or down, probably not by that much. Let's try 15%. So every 2 bars, we're going to get a new pitch decay value. And we could likewise map it to this decay, but I would want it in an opposite direction. So let's just move it to -15. And yeah, so let's go back to the chance, pulse, and variance for a moment, because it's important to understand what's going on here before we start moving on to some other elements. Which is that, let's set this to a half note. So now a cluster will only be generated, and we'll only be hearing those changes every half bar. And so we could synchronize the LFO with that, in fact. Why don't we just pull that to a half note? And I think the LFO is just doing a little too much. We could move the bass pitch up in relation to that LFO. And because the chance is happening less often, we might want to increase the chance that pulses occur. And we have a probability on the hold as well. So we can probabilistically hold notes. So with the operator playing a single voice and a bit of glide on there, we're getting those expressive sort of what do you call that? Portamento, I guess. I think there's a fancier word for that that's eluding me at the moment. But yeah, so now let's look at creating some other elements to go along with this. Or actually, you know what? Rather, you know, it's great to leave these things running generatively in such a way, but it could be good to also you know, capture it occasionally, right? So let's just go ahead and create a new MIDI trap. That's nice. Just set it to record from our trusty operator. We can see the MIDI passing in, and let's just start capturing here. And maybe we could now set it to 8th note dotted pulse cluster. So every 1.5 eighth notes, it's now gonna probabilistically generate a new rate. And I'm just gonna set this to lower decay. And what I want to do with the LFO is also set that to unipolar. So it's only going to go downward in the decay department. And we have different ways to control the length. The length can also be set to a random mode. So we'll get a random length. The decay will still be relative to that. And yes, I'm still recording. Still going in there. But yeah, so you know, we can also record this quite usefully, I feel, to take lanes, right? And so let's just go here and show the take lanes, and oh, it's not recording because this is playing. There we go. Now we've got something new going in there. And now, of course, this is a 4-bar loop. Could be an 8-bar loop. Could be whatever length. But now you can go and, of course, select those choice bits that really resonate with you. If you don't want to just let it keep doing its thing, which I often find quite compelling. And I've been known to hypnotize myself for hours on end, doing little more than just that. Now I seem to have accidentally recorded some automation I don't want, but that's quite all right. We'll come back to that later. I'll just toggle out of the automation and remove that. And so, yeah, what we're able to produce with this pulse engine here are these sort of complex, intricate rhythms that are continuously augmenting between dotted and triplet timings in a way that I would just never be able to do, not to mention the note runs and the note selection within the scale and key. So it really takes on a mind of its own, and yeah, I think it's something. Well, I continue to find lots worth exploring in there, so to say. Now let's look at some other modes here, right? Because we can also set it to a straight only mode, so we'll never play triplets or dotted. And then at that point, I think I will disable the glide, and then just to demonstrate some of the glitchier, more IDM aesthetic we can get. Yeah. Going up to these 128th note runs, that might be a little much. So let's just set that to 64th notes. I think that's IDM enough for anyone. And let's pull the decay down. And, you know, like it's a monophonic device, but there's nothing stopping us from putting a chord on there. However, this particular operator is set up monophonically. So I think we'll get into a chord thing next. But it would probably be good after I finish showing the timing modes to look at creating some interesting percussion patterns with it, right? So then we can also do a no straight mode. So it'll be only triplets and dotted. You can also select to exclude triplets, exclude dotted, only triplets, only dotted. I'm going to try the no straight. So this will be comprised only of triplet and dotted timings. So it's generating rhythms I couldn't necessarily conceive. And to make it truly polyrhythmic, we can add a maximum randomization of division of 3 there. But I think this is where I end up getting these really sort of loping bass lines. So let's just go, let's keep it from 8th note triplet to 8th note dotted. And let's move it down an octave. Yeah, it's kind of robbing us of some of the note runs. Or maybe if I open up the pulse timing a little bit, There we go. Now they've got a little more time to express themselves. And they're quite low. Yeah, let me move that back up. Okay, so yeah, they're getting quite spaced out in their timing. But then this also illuminates another mode that can be useful when you want a little more control, which is to set it to a manual mode. And now you can still set a maximum minimum range, but it's basically ignored at this point. And yeah, so now what this allows us to do, for example, is I'll just group it to a rack so that I'm able to map the rate to a macro. And this is only mappable when you're in manual mode, because in these other modes, it's changing so rapidly that Live doesn't really like it. And so it's better to avoid Live recognizing all those changes. But if you want to control it, you switch it to manual mode. And what can be interesting is to also map the pitch to the same macro. Now the thing is that tends to go slower the higher you get. Maybe that's good. Let's take a listen. Okay, so yeah, what I want to do is go to the mapping browser, and I don't want it to go that high, and I want it to go in the opposite direction. And I also need to change some of these decay settings, which I think I'll unmap and turn the LFO off, right? Okay, and I think maybe I need to reset these minimum and maximums so that I can explore the full range. Turn the chaos and decay off. Yeah, so unfortunately there's not a way to really set the minimum there. And this is where it might be useful to have a So that's a fun thing we can do. You can jam around on that. And actually, with the glide back on and the hold turned on and a little bit more chaos applied, maybe with some decay. Yeah, you get those nice summertime sort of lead lines. But yeah, okay, so now that we've got a basic handle on Pulse Engine's current operations here, let's go back to the full range. I think I do want it to occasionally play some normal notes along with all the wonderful triplets and dotted notes, all that good stuff. And get back to our baseline zone here. Okay, so now before we get too carried away with this, I've got it kind of like in a reasonable zone to just let it keep percolating away. I'm going to go ahead and drop on the on one pad of the drum rack. In fact, yeah, let's go to the open hat, and then the key keeps changing even though the scale awareness is turned off. I better just fix that. There we go. Okay, so let's go and put Pulse Engine on the open hat. So Okay, right? So obviously you can see how this is going to get really, really intense really quickly. So this is where I would want the pulse chance to maybe go down, the decay to go down, and crucially the velocity. And some modulation on the velocity as well. Okay, now let's get our Sample and Hold Pro on there, because what's really turning this into jazz energy is to open and close the hi-hat with each of these MIDI notes. It takes a little bit to dial it in quickly, especially when it's going so rapidly. I think I'll just have to cap that at 30-second notes and allow some shorter ones through here. Okay, something is a little bit fishy here. Let me just, so, you know, you can press pause there to turn it off at any point. I think the velocity is too low. I'm going to raise the minimum floor of those randomizations. There we go. And the decay is pulling them down too low. Ah, okay, nice. Okay. So, yeah, let's open that up a little bit on the modulation of the decay. And I think we want to smooth that out by a few milliseconds. And what could be interesting here is to say every 3 notes change the decay. It's too much modulation now. Okay. Now we start to get some of this more dynamic hi-hat stuff going. Turn the level down a bit. And let's, I don't know if the length decay is going to affect it terribly much. But so this is just leaving it at 1 pitch. And so now, what I want to do, we're going to take a pulse engine to another pulse engine. So what's going to happen is, I want to get this on some keys here. We'll give it a nice bit of reverb. And I want this track to receive MIDI from the operator. And let's go ahead and get ourselves a nice chord on there before the electric. And yeah, you're going to start talking to each other. So what's going to happen is I'm going to grab another pulse engine. Set this to listen. Okay, it's definitely coming through, but I don't want it to actually spit out any MIDI yet. Not until we get our pulse engine on there. So this, this second pulse engine, which is going to feed the chords, so I'm placing it before them. This is going to receive that MIDI from the other operator, and I'm going to set it to a solo mode. Element, welcome. And what I'm going to do is set this to the fill mode so that it will only output MIDI in between the notes it receives from the incoming track. And it's not really moving at all. I need to give it a lot more variance, just spitting out those 30-second notes. And if I drop the chance that the pulses will play down, we're going to get just this occasional ornamental fills on these chords. And what I want to do actually is set it to a receive mode. So the chord pitch it plays will be relative to the note coming in. And let's make sure it's up at least an octave above that. little too much. Yeah, there we go. So in this case, you know, 64th note on the chords, that's, let's say a maximum 30-second note dotted. Let's shorten the lengths. We've got some chaos. Do we want them to go? Let's have them drop down. Now, because the bass is quite busy, and this can only play between those notes, and it's actually only going to play 35% of the time between those notes, it's kind of sparse right now. Let's turn up the pulse chance. And let's set it to straight, so that these are playing on more conventional intervals. Give a little strum. Just need some dub on there. And this is too high again, so let's drop it down to a respectable bass register. Again, I think the decay is coming down too much, and the minimum is too low. So these are now ostensibly in conversation with one another, but we can do something even more interesting here. So, you know, I've been known to use this ornamental pulse engine sort of interstitially inserting itself between moments of a sequence using this fill mode. So it can't play when other notes are playing. And it's actually triggered by those notes being off is what enables it. That's why the chance is grayed out in this case, because the trigger for it to select a new pulse and possibly play is receiving that note off message. But we can also set it to a gate mode, which is similar, except the chance and pulse is still controlled not by the note off, but by the rate specified here. And oh, that's so the gate, it will only play when those notes come in, and the side, of course, is in between them. So these are all different ways I created for different elements to sort of talk to each other, right? That's the thinking behind it. A lot of it came out of, again, these sort of generative installations. And you don't have to use it with this sort of bluesy jazz thing. You can do it all ambient, weird, IDM elements talking to each other. Can be a lot of fun that way too. Maybe we'll get into that towards the end here. But want the decay on the hi-hats to be a little more active. Just dialing in the velocity on those hats. Turn that off. Let's try doing it straight. Put some swing on there. Kind of getting lost in all the sauce of the different rhythms. The polyrhythmic playground, as it were. Yeah, okay. So yeah, let's maybe get some leads in there, but yeah, I wanted to explore one other way to sort of get the bass and the electric talking to each other. which is to create another track. I'll use a chance engine. Actually, let's just create a new MIDI track, and it's going to have an actual MIDI clip on it. And yeah, let's just have it like a beat and a half. And let's loop it like so. And I'm going to put a chance engine after it so that we can randomize the pitches a little bit. We want it to always play and all that stuff. But then this is now going to be, I'm going to rename it source. This will be our source MIDI. It's going to define and dictate when these two pulse engines play. So I'll set the operator to gate mode. And so that means it's going to only play when it's receiving MIDI. And I'll set this, it's already inside mode. And I want them both to solo. I don't want that incoming MIDI to be blended with the output. And I want them both to receive now from that source track. Okay, so let's go ahead and press play and see what happens. Let's put them both at 100%. I feel like, there we go. Get this a bit longer, or higher rather, faster. And the electric, it is receiving from the source. They're both set to in. So let's just go ahead and consult the viewer. So it's receiving those transposing MIDI notes in. I think I'll turn off the delay. I feel like that's confusing things now as to which is playing when. And let's just get this a little more standard. So you can see now, I'll double this loop length. So the electric in side mode is only playing here, and the operator in gate mode is only playing while the note is held. So that's a little more, making a little more sense. Turn that strum off, get this to a more conventional note cluster. There we go. Okay, something going on here. So let's go ahead and get back to how I had it configured before, because this is not so convincing. Or actually, you know what? Let's just stop the drum clip. And the hi-hat continues to play because it's triggered by pulse engine, which I'll pause. Let's go ahead and just turn this into more of an ambient exploration for a minute. Go ahead and grab a little wave table and, you know, just grab a cluster of notes in this here scale I'm working with. Something like that. And do my little continuous pad trick that you've probably seen me do before if this isn't your first time tuning in, and if it is, welcome. Interesting chord, interesting choice. It's got some nice tension to it, I have to say. It's also a little loud. Just gonna oscillatory LFO on that OS1 pause. Just a little tonal texture for us here. Look at that. I started the kicks again, didn't I? I said I would keep it ambient for like, what, 2 minutes? All right. Okay. That's enough of that. Settle down. Let's go ahead. We got our ambient backdrop bed track here with a nice lush pads, which I want to just detune ever so slightly. And people often ask, you know, can you use the Pulse engine on a sampler? And yeah, you know, you certainly can. Should I? Yeah, why not? Let's try recording my big, dumb, stupid voice. Polyrhythmic playground. Okay, and what I want to do now is throw that in a simpler. Yes, throw that in a simpler. Against my better judgment, let's go ahead and normalize this. There we go. And trim that tail and get it into slice mode. And let's slice by region and just chop it. Let's just chop it a bunch of times. Get a bunch of short little regions there. Give it some fade in and some fade out. And this is going to start at C1 or C0. We'll find out soon. Okay, let's go ahead and grab a little you-know-what. Slap it on there. Just get rid of that. It's a little bit granular. Shades of monolake. Could do. Get some filtration on there. This starting point is so loud, I'm going to remove that and try and get rid of this quiet material as well. Okay, and I think of course we need to randomize the panning on those, or else what are we even doing here? A little more fade in could probably help. You know what? We're using live 12.2, so that means we can throw a fun comb filter on there or something. Let's try that. Okay, we got all those jazzy bits, right? So let's get a little more IDM-ish with the situation here. We need some kind of lead. You feeling hypnotized yet? Probably not. We need the kick drum for that. Get a little more dub echo on there. Okay, yeah. Let's go ahead and grab the wavetable. I did this with a techno session the other week. What I like to do is, yeah, let's go set it to mono with some glide and do a little randomization on the oscillator 1 position and the warp in the opposite direction. Why not? And yeah, everything's coming through loud and clear. Seems good. Yeah, so now let's go ahead and grab that pulse engine this time. And this one, let's try and make it go real crazy. Yeah, that was easy. Let's dial this in a little better. And let's go ahead and give it a ramp up. So it's climbing up over 0.53 hertz. Let's try that with a little irregularity. And let's add a fair bit of pitch decay on there. That's of course measured in semitones. Now we get these crazy expressive note runs that are maybe a little too often. So this is where, you know, you got to really dial down the chance that the pulse is happening, so it's not just constant musical diarrhea. There we go. Occasional musical diarrhea. Sounds great. What's going on over here? Some of them sound really percussive. I think I need even more fade in. Yeah. Maybe a little band pass with some LFO on there. Yeah, there we go. New fusion jazz ambient record incoming. Turn that hold down. So it keeps climbing up. I wonder, should we consider putting that at an 8-bar thing? Okay. Should be able to. Oh, now it's really stuck. Sometimes these devices don't love receiving a super fast run of MIDI notes. Any questions or anything interesting in there? Anything anybody else want to see? Let's try ramping the time. I don't think I've shown that yet. So this is going to successively slow down, decelerate, or accelerate the pulses within a cluster as triggered. So you can hear that ramping up. Need a little not listening to the source input anymore. Excuse me, sir. You need to calm down. Yeah, so it's ignoring that source input, which is now simply triggering with some transposition the pulse engine here. How fast can it spit it out? Yes, shades of Monolake for sure. So the maximum bass rate is 128th note, but then you can divide that by up to 64. So it turns into a total like black MIDI, like insane amounts of notes, more than some instruments are comfortable handling apparently. So I don't know what 128th note is divided by 64, but it's pretty fast. Should we do it? Should we do the thing? That's not my favorite hand clap in the world, but with a little bit of massaging, we can. Yeah, it's totally pseudo-granular MIDI. You can think of it that way for sure. And that's kind of what's going on with the Monolake sampler of my goofy voice here. I just recorded a quick sample, sliced it by region, and it's being triggered with pulse engine. Okay, let's get another rim shot here. And there it is, getting stuck again. That doesn't usually happen with wavetable. Clap still sounds like absolute trash. What can I do about this? I think I would want it more clicky anyway. It's kind of going along with the clicky vibrations elsewhere. Just a gentle little emphasis on the downbeat. And then, you end up building these systems that just kind of start expressing themselves, and for sure we can collapse this into some kind of track, and maybe we should, and perhaps we will, but it might be useful to get one more element in there. There we go. Pads are kind of intense. Nice and spacious, actually. Let's get a chorus on here. There we go. A little more vintage energy. Let's get a second oscillator going. Come on. What are we doing? Thing with the pulse engine. Yeah, let's do something with operator for that. Better save this thing. Okay, there we go. And let's just pitch it up. probably going way too fast. Nobody wants to hear that. I mean, it's nice to know it can do that and everything, but and you know what? I think I will go ahead and use an X relay on here just to delay the output by 2/16 notes. So everything will be delayed. Instead of dropping on the downbeat, it'll be on the upbeat. We could also set that to an offset delay of 1/8 note. If you multiply it by 0, there's no offset. You can augment that with a divisor and an additional millisecond adjustment if you want, but yeah, let's pull this up a little bit. Yes, Kev, welcome. It is unique, yeah. It again arriving at gestures and artifacts I never would have composed or played. Giving Woody the Woodpecker really pecking at the trunk of the tree there. Try and play with it's a little glassier. Okay, nice. And I forget. Yeah, we do have pan random here in operator. Very good. We can restrict that to a single voice for today's purposes. And, you know, I might as well play around with the second modulator or oscillator, get a more interesting waveform there. X relay is a utility, comes bundled with the pulse engine, so you can delay any MIDI by whatever amount you want. You can also bump it up an octave at a time. That's too much. There we go. Yeah, so let's go and check friendship in the chat. You love to see it. I'm gonna go and see, like, what did we capture with the operator earlier? Did I delete? I deleted all the clips. Okay, good. So now it's a good chance to go back and wow, that was intense. The note hold probability at 0, so I'm a bit befuddled as to some of these stuck notes. A few ways I could address that. But yeah, let's go and capture the bass. And see if we can't see if we can't go ahead and get some nice take lanes from the bass here. While that's happening, I'm going to go ahead and well, at any rate, I don't know if this is going to be golden or not. That wavetable's really getting on my nerves. Settle down, pal. All right, what I want to explore are the so now captured all those different instances, and what I'm going to do is just pause this and option drag the operator over here so we can hear those notes expressed. Delete all that automation I didn't actually want. Okay, so that's, I like this. Maybe let's, that's kind of useless. Some funny note timings coming out there. Fuss around with this for another minute or so, and then I think like those might work. No, I was wrong. They do not work. And neither does that. And then, you know, I can also just drag things around here. And then, yeah, there's some funny timings that came in from all the triplets and all the dotted. So, like, certain MIDI notes seem as if they're almost askew. But I'm going to go ahead and consolidate time to new scene. And let's go ahead and play it back over here. And you want to leave some of that off timing because that's part of the magic of Pulse Engine is irregular timings. But like, you know, the name of the game, as always with this generative stuff, is take the parts you like and then, you know, modify it to your liking. So these double notes are not working for me. And similarly here, just nudge that around, maybe move it up and elongate it. That's going to go better here, I feel. Those are a problem. Let's go ahead and drop that down to a more reasonable level. And then overall, I think I just want to go ahead and extend the release time on one of the oscillators there. I'm just going to bring their chances down. And this one, I'm going to actually drop it like that and put it to a play one, so it's going to alternate between those two notes on a semi-random basis. So now I've extracted a bass line, something resembling a bass line, let's say, from all this generative output, which again, you know, a lot of this was formed in the process of creating these installation works where I wanted elements generated by Pulse Engine to be continuously changing, right? So it was designed for situations in which you wouldn't necessarily have to capture things down into a replicable arrangement, but you certainly can too, as the electric and percussion just kind of percolate along there. And of course we can reactivate our wavy guy. Let's try a different pad chord, shall we? As a little alternate, and then I might try to just arrange my way into something here. Although it might just be better to record it into the arrangement and then excerpt different parts. So then, yeah, this becomes a bit of a lesson in the methodology of finally how to capture all this stuff in a less deliberate way than the bass line I just captured. But let's just try and stay focused on get this other chord. Yeah, maybe, I don't know. Let's see. Might not be necessary. I think we need to move that frequency up. And maybe I should even just segment it here. Set that to a random. Trying to avoid these quiet bits. It's really alternating between the first and the last. I'm not sure why. Maybe because there are too few regions now. There we go. I was doing stuff. So weird. I kind of like it though. Right. Okay. So what was I talking about? Yes. Trying to do an arrangement here. The drums we don't have to worry about. We definitely want to disable the loop brace. I've already got the bass capture, but I've got the loop flowing through there. So what I might actually do is, yeah, I'm gonna bring this to the operator. And enable that, disable this, and set it to auto. So we can play it, and then this can be, well, we don't even need to really worry about that. What I will do now is repurpose this as the keys capture, and I like to put it in a logical spot. Let's make sure it's capturing the keys now that I've got the bass line just kind of running steady. Wavetable also running steady. Dumb voice, however. Dumb voice, I could record his audio, but that's going to take up room on my hard drive that it's simply not worth. So I will, what did I just say? Yes, MIDI, exactly, very good. That's what I meant to do. Go ahead and set this to receive from the dumb voice in. And I think I'm going to have to arm multiple of these for recording. Okay, this one needs to be renamed. Voice in. And then we need two more of these, right, for the wavetable. and the percussion. Just got to make sure each time to reset the input and then enable it. Perk in. And then I'm going to do a quick test. Make sure it's all running how I expect. So those are all set up to capture the generative output that's going to be rolling here. So let's just go to this zone, and with all those armed to record, we should see. Now that's a problem. I don't like how sometimes the tracks, no, I want the voice in. There we go. I'm confused now. Did I delete the wavetable input? I feel like I might have. No worries. No worries. Just set that back up. Okay, this is going to have a payoff, believe it or not. Do our quick test here. Yep, it's all coming in. Something sounds funny. Something receiving from the operator. Oh, I see what's happening here. I repurposed it to capture the keys, but I neglected to remove the operator on there, which is being triggered. Okay, cool. So we're all set here. I think what I'm going to do is start over, and I think I'll introduce these elements by enabling their respective pulse engines when I'm ready for them to start. And then, yeah, we'll do it like that. And then we'll have a little jam going here. Rename this perk so I can get a better sense. And then, you know what? I like this drum clip, is great and all, but I don't want it to start with all the busy extras. So let's just go ahead and deactivate those for the intro. Actually, let's do one more drum clip with just the kick for a true minimal expression. All right. So they're all playing. The wavetable is good. I might trigger that other track. Okay, loop braces off. Let's go. Is going. That's okay. I don't mind having the voice in the intro. Let's set this to a nice 8-bar launch quantization so that when I launch our new drum clip, it will begin at an appropriate interval. Okay, those initial perks were a bit of a mistake, but it's no big deal. I can simply delete those later. So now, to enable that, I will enable the pulse engine. need some more modulation to really bring it to life, but plenty of time for that, especially since it's being captured as MIDI. Let's try the other chords on the wavetable pad. It's an intriguing lift. I'm not sure about it, but good to have some kind of change up to presage the leads. And now let's go back to give the leads a rest. I think it might be time for a little breakdown. Just like we planned it. I think perhaps when the drums come back, we might just get rid of the pads for a moment. There we go. Welcome, JB. Nice. Just as we're capturing our little polyrhythmic playground situation here. And then maybe the perks. And then I'll automate the pitch bend there. I think that's a good time for the leads to just end. I wonder, maybe I'll re-enable the automation recording. I wonder, I've never tried automating the slice region size. I'm not sure if that's, yeah, that's not gonna do anything, but if I were recording the audio, that could be worth experimenting with. And we're approaching our exit, our exfil. Maybe drop another little pad in there. No, it's going to be too much excitement this late in the game. I think we'll just reduce the percussion, slowly exit. Just double check, make sure, yeah, everything's coming through here. Sometimes, you know, it's a crazy world out there. You just need a little soothing, generative, African blues style, minimal electronics, just to smooth everything out, you know? Just give your ears a rest down by the stream, as one of my favorite poets used to say. All right, so that'll be just about enough of that, culminating in 200 bars of approximate nonsense. Okay, so now we have a little bit of homework to do, right? Because, well, first of all, let's just, yeah, So what I want to do, basically, in each case, is drag the capture track up to the original track so that it can trigger the actual instrument. And then I can delete the track that captured it. And I will do this subsequently each time. Okay, and I'm going to want to recolor and do a bunch of other important stuff. Okay, great. Let's just go ahead and assign the track color to clips. And then what we need to do is expand them so that we can, well, first of all, let's make sure the generative MIDI stuff is disabled now. We don't want any of that to do anything anymore. Your work here is done, for now at least. And then one more here. Yep, just disable that. Good. Okay, now my dumb voice might not need to come in right away. I'll have it come in at bar 17, and then this, I can just see the MIDI starts around bar 73, so I'm just going to do that so that the clip aligns more or less with where the material is happening. And being MIDI and not audio, I don't have a bunch of extra megabytes recorded to the hard drive as a result of that somewhat indulgent recording capture. Right, and then the keys, I did not do that on the keys, so let's go ahead one more time, delete that, disable this, and now we've got some semblance of a track, I believe. Okay, and the problem is that we recorded this source material, and what's going on here? Oh, I need to turn it to auto. There we go. And that source was just generating the transposing chance engine. So, yeah, this is a fun little session, I think. Is the dumb voice happening? It should be triggering. It's not hitting the right notes, I'm afraid. Well, we can adjust that in a variety of ways. I wonder why it captured those too high up. There we go. Not the case with the other captures. Okay, I'm just going to skip through, make sure the perk and the waves are all coming in correctly. Okay, yeah, and I really don't think that extra pad chord really served anybody, so I'm going to just get rid of that. And, yeah, it's a thing we did. And that wavetable, you know, I can remove some of those bits where it gets a little too frisky, like, just use a 0 key to deactivate in case I don't want to commit to their removal forever and ever. And then see, because it got disabled there, I'd like to remove the clip, so I just, you know, when I'm zoomed out, I have a visual indication of the fact that it's not really present there. But now I've got all this raw material to work with, essentially, right? It needs some massaging, it needs some finessing. This is kind of the approach with so many of these generative tools. If you look in the comments, in the description of the video, there's a special discount on Pulse Engine for anyone interested in such things. Any questions in the chat before we start wrapping this up? Wow, that's so much going on there. Anything we didn't look at, or anything I should perhaps review? Or like these held notes, but they don't need to be held for like that long. Something like that. Well, yeah, this is Pulse Engine, an important part of our growing family of generative MIDI effects, audio effects, utilities, MIDI tools, all these fun things I like to tinker around and make for myself and make for all of you. And I'm always excited to share what they can do in the process of making something together here. So thanks to all of you for tuning in. Always appreciate the input. Next one will be in a couple weeks. Hope to have something new to share by then. That's all I can say at this point. Waiting on some things slightly outside of my control before I can really get into it, but fingers crossed. And with that, yeah, I wish everyone an excellent rest of their week and a fun, healthy, safe weekend. Be well out there, take care of one another, and until next time, be well.